I got my whiskey poured. I don't know if you got yours.
I got water today. I'm dealing with a health issue at the moment.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's a
I'm
bummer.
drinking. I'm drinking in spirit though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I poured this whiskey in I can't pour it back in the bottle now, so I'll just have to go ahead and finish it.
No, it's all good. I hope you enjoy it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The levels sound pretty good to you. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds great. I'm just making
Awesome.
sure everything is closed on my end because why risk it, right?
Yeah, no, I think everything is sounding good. I have the headphones on. I was experiencing some feedback. This is my first time ever Skyping, so thank you
Oh,
for,
really?
yeah, popping my cherry, I guess. Well, I did some Skyping earlier with a friend just to, like, kind of get used to the whole thing, get my setup down. I got a GoPro that I've had to figure out how to run
Ah,
into my, like, Mac Mini, so it's been a little bit of a little bit of a task, especially for me, someone who's incredibly unsavvy when it comes to technology.
you're not missing much.
Well, I'm learning a little bit, trying to do this podcast. It's a lot of hustling and always working on getting stuff together and things like that. But yeah, jumping into it, man. Where do you want to start? Your comic? You got your new book that just came out. I
Yeah.
have made it through quite a bit of
Okay.
Social Media is Bullshit, which is the greatest title for a book ever. Like,
Thanks. I got a lot of trouble for it, but yeah, I love the title. I'm glad I was able to win that fight.
you got in a lot of trouble for it?
Oh
Why don't
yeah.
you start right there? Let's start right there.
So last year, the top-selling nonfiction book was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And they have, if you look at the title carefully, fuck there's like an asterisk there. So
Okay.
like, that's like standard procedure in the book world is to censor the swear word. We didn't want to do that.
Right, right.
And that was a real fight as to are people even going to put this on the shelf in their store because of the word shit,
Right, right.
which is crazy. And like if you try to find the book on Amazon, it'll stop you at the word bull. If you type in
Hmm.
social media is bull, like it won't complete it because it doesn't like the swear word. So like there's all sorts of weird shit like that. And then there was places like okay, so I was on CNBC and they couldn't say the word bullshit. So we spent like a good 5 minutes of the interview with them being like, oh, well, maybe we could say it's bull shizu or like they were going through like all these contortions. I'm thinking, this is cable, man. Like, if you can't swear on cable, what's the fucking point? So,
Right, right, right.
yeah,
So, I don't know if I should say how the mighty have fallen. You're on CNBC and now you're hanging out with like some dude in his basement. Here is by
I
the pint.
I prefer this honestly. It's easy for me to book that kind of TV. Like, it's not because of where I live. I live right by the CNBC headquarters, for example. So for me to pop in there, it's not hard. I prefer this because we can
Right.
actually just talk.
Yeah, have fun.
Whereas, you don't have a producer screaming in your ear saying, "Ah, fuck, we got like a commercial break in 30 seconds." Like you don't have that, so I
Right.
prefer the podcast.
The the
What's your recommendation?
producer the producer has no problem saying fuck. It's just
Right,
saying fuck on
right,
the air. Like
right.
the producer can swear all he wants.
Yeah, I mean, the producer can say whatever they want. You say it on the air, it's like a $200,000 fine or so some ridiculous thing like that. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you. You're in Columbus.
Yep, Columbus. So, well, just outside of Columbus,
Okay.
Delaware, but yeah, Central Ohio.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that because I've spent a lot of time in the area recently.
Okay.
What is a good dating location? Like, where would you take a date in Columbus?
There's a lot of spots. I have two kids now, so and a wife, so I'm not taking too many. I'm taking my
Right.
daughter on dates, and usually I sneak them into the breweries with me bright and early, lunchtime. But yeah, there's a lot of really good spots if you like craft beer. A lot of good restaurants around town.
Okay.
Really great breweries. A lot of food trucks. There's Land Grant Brewery. There's North High. I think all of them do some variation of food, but it's a lot of kind of quick food, and then a lot of them have food trucks. Tip Top is a great spot. It's
Okay.
right downtown. I actually just saw picture on social media, which is bullshit. But I just saw the picture on social media that Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider were at Tip Top last night because I think they had just had their I think they had just had their comedy show in town like last night. Nice. So they like went there for a late night bite. So I guess let's go with Tip Top. You know, you might run into a celebrity, or you know they might run into you, celebrities. Yep. You know,
a celebrity or Adam Sandler.
right.
Depending on where Adam Sandler is these days. So yeah, like if you read the privacy book, Columbus. There's like this big running joke about Columbus, Ohio throughout the entire book.
Oh, wow.
And this girl that I know, and I can't say her name on the air because of the job she has, but like if you read the book with that context, knowing that I've gone to Columbus and I've gone out on a few dates with this girl, then some of the jokes that are in there start to pop out at you.
Okay.
And you realize that that's what I'm talking about throughout the book. So,
yeah.
It's a cool city. I like it, and I just saw you were in Columbus. I was really excited about it because I was like, "All right, fuck yeah, this is the best place in Ohio to be." It seems.
Yeah, Columbus is a great city. Central Ohio's really like hustle and bustling. I just got back from North Carolina with my wife, Durham, and that was a really fun city. Yeah. It seems like every city, if you have any kind of culture based around your city, it seems like they're all really starting to come up with these vibrant like downtown and local communities where like breweries and artists are just really putting these cities into a position where like they're just super enjoyable. Downtown Durham was a great time, a lot of great breweries, things like that, and brought back a bunch of beer, so I was pretty excited about that.
Nice. Now, are you going with the Maker's Mark, or what are you going with tonight?
I am actually. That's great that you brought up your been in and out of Columbus. I'm drinking Watershed Distillery's small batch bourbon. They started off, I think, just doing gin and vodka, or maybe vodka and then gin, but they moved on to the bourbon. I really like the bourbon, super light, smooth, just a little bit of sweetness. A little more expensive, I'll drink Bullet normally. It's nice and cheap,
yeah, it gets the job done.
Yeah, you get a liter, but I'm always someone who likes to keep my money local. So if I can support them, spend some extra money, I'm all about it. It's really good. Do you like your whiskey on the rocks or neat?
Neat.
Neat?
I always get it neat. I don't know why. My whole thing with whiskey. So okay, I gotta set this up properly. I did this Amtrak influencer thing a few years ago where they took a bunch of I hate the term influencer, but a bunch of quote unquote internet celebrities. They stuck us on a train and we went out to South by Southwest. But before we left, the guy from Bullet, there was a whole presentation that he did. I forget what movie he was in, but he played the guy Dirt, and that was like a big thing, and they kept talking about. But they poured everyone Bullet. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I was never a whiskey guy, but I loved it. And so because they poured it neat, I've just consistently gotten it that way, without question. That's not the best thing in the world. I'm sure, the varieties, the spice of life and all that. But that's why I get it neat. It's because I saw it that one time and I just stuck to it.
Well, I always think too, neat just sounds so much tougher, You're like, I want a whiskey neat. It just sounds great, and it's I don't know, I can't get away from it on the rocks. I love whiskey and water. I like when it gets watered down. I always try to steer towards the neat, but then one time I was just forgot oh, there is no ice in that. And that last drink, I just took it down, and I was just one-eyed Willie, just sitting there, choking out on it. But yeah, so I'll keep working towards the neat. But yeah, next time you're in Columbus, man, you should check out some Watershed Distillery if you haven't had a chance to get it. It's really good stuff, really smooth. One of my favorites right now.
I'm adding it to. I have a running list of places to go with this person whenever I'm there, so I'm going to add it to that.
Yeah, it's like I said, there's good dives, there's good nicer end spots. I always like the dive. Everybody likes a dive bar, right?
I think that Columbus, because it's a college town, you got to go to the dive bar.
Oh yeah,
I think that's where the action is.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I I grew up in Delaware, Ohio, which again is just north. but at the time it seemed like a lot more separation. You know, I'm 39 now, so you know, over like the 20 plus years, as the city has continued to expand and the suburbs have gotten more massive, like really Delaware is just like another subdivision, another community of Columbus. It's just like the most outlying suburb, essentially, with like an old historic downtown. But you know, Columbus, when I first moved there, it was just a college town. That
Right.
was all it was. And it was the capital, but like downtown shut down. And over those 20 years, you can really see like Columbus is starting to define itself as its own like city and place to be, and like really just like a great Midwestern city, you know. And it's yeah, I love Columbus, man. It's a good time.
It's nice to see too. I mean, and that's what I've heard too from people that have gone out there or maybe gone to college there and then came back. It looks like the city popped up overnight to them.
Right.
Like, because it's continuing to expand out. So, and it seems like a great place for comics too. Like it seems to
Yeah.
be New York, LA, Portland, Columbus, at number four.
Yeah, there's a lot of local creators. I'm like, you know, I'm rocking my Vault Comics hoodie,
Nice. Very
and
nice.
you know, I was just again scrolling through and reading Vengeance Nevada, the comic that you had sent over for us to check out, and really enjoyed it. You know, I had never even read comics outside of a year ago. Never read them growing up. Nothing. I went into a store. I kind of like always grew up with like comic book movies, like Batman '89. Loved things like that.
Right.
I watched Civil War around Christmas a couple years ago, and I was like, man, that was really entertaining. I jumped into some of the CW shows, and I was like, man, I want more. Like I love Green Arrow. Everyone knows, like huge, you know. In fact, I'm just like head over heels for Green Arrow. But so I started reading comics, and now I've recently gotten into the independent comic scene, and I just read Wasted Space by Vault Comics, was released by Vault Comics yesterday, and it was great. Now I've read a lot of really great independent comics, and it's kind of awesome to get away from some of those company characters.
Yeah, I mean, those characters they're fun, right? Like you're always gonna look back fondly. For me, the first comic I read was the Jim Valentino Guardians of the Galaxy in the early
Wow.
'90s. Yeah, so like I'm always gonna look and say, hey, what are those characters up to? And the answer is
Right.
nothing, because the new
Right.
Guardians have completely replaced them. Like if you say
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy now, no one has any idea who the fuck like Vance Astro is. You know,
No, I don't.
right, like they'll just
That's
be like Groot, right? Groot is a Guardian. I'm like, yeah, but Groot is like 2008. But no, I think because we're in the same age range, and I found that people our age, I'm going to turn 35 in about a week.
okay.
We grew up with the cartoons and the movies more than
Right.
we did the actual comics.
Right.
So like my childhood is X-Men the animated series, right? And because
Absolutely.
I have older siblings, so when I was really little, you know, they all watched Super Friends, and then you had Spider-Man and all the Batman films. So I found that people our age, like when you talk to them about comics,
Right.
that's their entry point. It's not the comics itself; it's the cartoons, it's the movies, it's the
Right.
TV shows, and then the comics is kind of like secondary to all of that.
What's pushed you to start like creating independent comics, or maybe not start creating? Like, let's go. How long have you been creating comics
So
themselves? And you know, some of the stuff. Obviously, you know, you're a published author. So, what continues to inspire you to create comics?
so I've been publishing comics on the web since 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, so it feels like I mean, and most of them suck, so I have them all on a hard drive somewhere, and they will never see the light of day, because they're just awful. But you know, I was immersed in geek culture growing up. There wasn't so where I grew up from is a place called Monroe, New York. It's an hour north of New York City, and there was just nothing to do. Like you had the bowling alley, which mysteriously burned down, and that was it. Like that was all of your choices. So you had to go to cartoons and movies and comic books just to entertain yourself. And so for
Right.
me, being a nerd and being like the poor kid at the rich kid high school, you know, I didn't fit in, and I found as an outsider, I took to things outsiders do, like comics. And I just from the very beginning, I've always wanted to do it. There was no. I know I'm not going to make money doing this. Like I pay out of pocket for Vengeance Nevada. I don't do Kickstarter. I don't do Patreon. It's all me saving money and paying for it and putting it out. And if it breaks even, that's a win. So I've been doing it forever just because I love it. I love the medium. If I could do it forever, I certainly will.
Yeah, it is a great medium. It's really fun. The more that I'm getting into it now,
Oh, sorry. That's Siri, who apparently is responding to you.
Oh. Well, tell her I said hello. I can never get my Siri to work like on my own phone.
Right. No, this is the second time this has happened to me because I've been doing a lot of interviews lately to promote the privacy book, and I can't get either Google Assistant because I have two phones or Siri to work for me when I wanted to, but during an interview, they have gone off multiple times. And it was like some random shit too. Like I don't even know what that was.
I thought I heard something about a monkey.
Yeah, like there's a zoo in Columbus, or just outside of Columbus. Maybe that's what I was talking about. Weird. But yeah. So tell me, because we come from. So do you with Arrow? This is something I ask everyone. Do you watch the show regularly?
I do now. When I started, I went on like the binge watching bender. Like I just cranked out the first and second season, and I think I jumped right into the third season too. It might have been all the first four like just released, and I was like, I'll give it a chance. And I was like, oh, well, this is Batman with bow and arrows.
Yeah.
And then the more I got into it, I was like, I just like loved the character. I loved the way they built up that universe. And then I got so excited for season 2 with Deathstroke. I was just like out of my mind, And but now this season I have been watching week to week and have been pretty disappointed for the most part. Are you watching it regularly? Do you watch?
So, we were talking about the big two and their characters, right? Like, there's always these things there's certain things you can't do with those characters that you can do in indie comics. And I think that this is season 6, right? That they're in right now for Arrow, or is it 7?
Yeah, season 6. Okay,
so you found like there's certain things that you just can't do after a certain while. And so I feel like they're now circling the wagons as to what else can we do to Oliver at this point. And the answer is really nothing.
Yeah,
they're sort of killing him and then having Diggle take over as Arrow for season 7. There's nothing more you can do with him in that group of characters.
The only thing that I could honestly see them doing, and that's one reason I love the Benjamin Piercy run of Green Arrow, like you saw like Oliver Queen oust himself as Green Arrow, which he had done that in in much earlier comics. I love the Mike Greel runs of Green Arrow. The Long Bow Hunter is a phenomenal read, and I love Hunter's Moon, like a ton of the Grell, Mike Grell. I always want to say Greel, but Grell. I just met him at Gym City Con, and cool. It was really awesome, man. It was. I didn't know that he had actually done the Wanted poster. He was the artist for the Wanted poster in the show. Yeah, and I was just like, oh, that's so great, Yeah. And in the Piercy run, they actually reference his name a few times, where there's like Judge Grell is like overseeing the proceedings to like indict Oliver Queen, and it was great. But the only thing that I could see is at the end of this season he has to be broken and get defeated by Dragon, because you don't see that. Like every season he defeats his foe, and next season I felt like they should have done that with Prometheus, because that was a great villain. But another problem I've had with the show for some time is like it seems like here recently like Oliver Queen's always getting outsmarted, and I'm like dude, you defeated Deathstroke, and you were essentially the demon's head. You are like the leader of League of Assassins. Like no one should be outsmarting you or defeating you in hand-to-hand combat.
Especially if he's Green Batman.
Right. You know, like that's where but I keep watching because I love Oliver Queen. I do like what they did with that show. I should probably just go back and watch like the first and second season again, honestly.
Yeah.
But
so when it first aired, I didn't like the first season, and I actively was like, okay, they're trying to be too cool. We're not going to call him the Green Arrow. It's just Arrow with a hood. It really wasn't until Deathstroke showed up I was like, okay, I'm going to go and sit down and actually watch through all of this. So that first season, if you watched it when it first aired in isolation, I don't really think it worked to attract a lot of people to the show. It wasn't really until The Flash where I think people went back to Arrow and they were like, no, this is pretty good. This is a really good show. They had Deathstroke in season 2. They did Rise al Ghul. They got Damien Dark, who's wonderful and horribly misused in other shows.
See, a lot of people hated the fourth season, hated the dark season, which
I don't get that because to me, the joy of the CW shows is they take these characters that no one has ever really given a shit about and made them interesting to the point where Damien Dark is probably the best part of the last season of Legends, or maybe the last 2 seasons of Legends. Like the guy who plays him just does a wonderful job. And to me, if you have a villain that can captivate the audience,
right?
I'm in. I am all in. Like I don't like. Do you watch The Flash at all?
I do. I've watched up to the 3rd season. I haven't watched the 4th season, and I'm not watching it in real time. I didn't get caught up before the CW app started pulling the episodes away from me, gotcha. So I couldn't watch it. But season 1 and season 2 were just like, honestly, I've talked about this a ton on the podcast. Like, I always thought Flash, I was just like, what a pussy. I was just like, what a terrible character. Right. Like, he just runs fast. And then that show like changed my mind. I was like, this is the most powerful superhero in the DC universe. I was just like, Flash is like, you know, right behind Superman in like power levels. So like that show like opened my eyes up, and I'm glad I watched that show before I saw Justice League, because if I would have saw Ezra Miller's Flash, I would have just been like, what a pussy.
Yeah. Oh, cool! It's Spider-Man.
Right.
That was my reaction to it when I definitely understand that. I felt like the Flash show opens up Arrow to a lot of people, because I didn't get Arrow until I saw the Flash, and I was like, no, this is really cool. Like they're doing a lot of really cool and exciting things. I should go back and give Arrow another try.
Right. I love too what they're doing with the crossovers. Like my buddy just said in one of our last episodes, because we had made a quick, quick talking point about all the CW shows that gotten renewed. And my buddy was like, honestly, you just live for the crossovers with those shows. And some of the crossovers haven't been great. I really liked Earth X. I liked last season a lot. Like, I thought that was cool. Again, there's always like CW. Like, I always hate to use like an out of like, well, it's CW, but there's just things with CW that they're going to do that like Netflix isn't going to do with like their, the universe they're building over there and things like that. But yeah, I am a huge fan of all of the CW shows. And, it's funny, you were just talking about the Legends. Like, to me, if I think any show could continue on, it's Legends, because to me it's just like super fun. Like, it's just like enjoyable.
I mean, it's not without its flaws. So I mean, that's my favorite. That's my favorite of the group. I mean, Black Lightning, I'm trying and just not get. I love the characters. I love the look of the show. I love the themes of the show, but I'm just not digging into it as much as I want to.
Right.
But Legends to me is for exactly that reason. It's my favorite because it could go on forever. It's funny. The struggle of the show, though, is that the tone switches so hard between episodes.
Right.
That you never know, okay, am I laughing in this episode, or are you guys like going to be super serious. So like, did you see the finale? I don't want to spoil it.
No.
Okay,
I'm 2 seasons behind on
okay.
Legends. I started the second season, so yeah, I'm a little behind there.
I'll say that so the finale you will laugh your ass off. Like
Okay.
the finale for the most recent season was wonderful and it was funny. The problem was building up to that episode. There was a few parts where the show just drags. It becomes like really kind of dark and sad, and you can't. To me, you can't do that if you're going to do a comedy. Like if you're going to have this be the fun show, you
Right,
really
right.
have to lean into it and make it like the fun show. So I'm hoping in the fourth season they fix that a bit.
Yeah, I feel like they just like take that show, and I know they've introduced some more female characters, but
Yep.
when I was watching the first season, I was like, man, they just take every opportunity to dress up Sarah Lance in like these retro, super
Right.
adorable outfits. Like I'm just like, yeah, that works. And yeah, I was bummed to see like Hawk Girl leave, and
Yeah.
with the Earth X crossover, it was cool to see them like kind of go back and realize like, whoa, like we need Leonard Snart, to bring him back in. I don't know if he's a legend now, if they brought him back onto the ship or whatever, but once he left, like I always thought like watching Flashes, I was like, man, I don't have anything pulled up, so I'm not going to have any actors' names or anything. But I was like, man, this dude's a terrible actor. But then, as I kept watching it, I was like, man, he is an incredible Captain Cold. Like he is the best. I just
Yes.
like I love him, dude. I just love like the way I just love the cadence of his voice when he
Yep.
talks and his delivery. It's so incredible.
I
And,
mean, I was sold on him from Prison Break.
yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
I was a fan of his going. I was like, oh, he's Captain Cold. This should be really good. And I loved how it's so hammy, but at the same
Right.
time, his delivery makes it work. I think if
Right.
it's any other actor delivering those lines, Captain Cold would be terrible. But he was wonderful in it. He does pop up. I mean, he's a reoccurring character, like in all of the shows. Like he's
Right,
got some
right.
contract with the CW where he just pops up. But yeah, I really enjoyed him. I enjoyed his combination with Heat Wave in the first season in particular. I can't say
Yeah.
anything else because you haven't seen the new
Yeah,
season.
I do need to get caught up. Man, when you're doing a Nerd Life podcast, this sounds so dumb. Like I used to play music in a rock band for
Okay.
years. Like we had hit the road, we recorded, we took it pretty seriously. I had no illusions that I was going to be making a living doing this. I was on the grind. Much like you making comics. I was working my day job, taking care of my kids, like going to band practice. I was hustling. So I quit that, and I was like that. And around that time is when I was getting like way into the comic books, and I was, like I'm like, yeah, we're gonna start this podcast. It'll be really fun. And then because I'm just like a born leader, so I spearhead everything to be like, okay, I'm gonna record it. I'll do this. And everything I add, like doing this video and doing the Skype and everything. Now it's like just more stuff I'm piling on my plate, but. You're not supposed to get stressed out reading comics or watching these shows, but there's honestly so much. There's like,
Right.
oh well, there's the new season of Gotham starting, so I need to binge watch 3 seasons so we can talk about it. And there's so much out there. It's hard to like stay caught up, and I have like. As far as not reading comics outside of a year ago, I didn't probably start pulling comics at my comic shop, like getting single issue floppies, like 8 months ago, and now I have like 6 short boxes full, and I'm just like,
Nice.
I have like 15 pulls that I'm on, and now that I'm diving into like the independent comics, I'm like pulling even more because I'm like, well, I want to read that,
Right.
and like. The indie comics is such a great game. Do you have any desire to actually like put your comics in print, or is it just easier digitally, or is it a financial thing, or do you
I mean,
just see the market being more of a digital market these days?
no. There's a lot of different answers I can give you on that one. Let me start with this, and let's see if this is a good answer. Uh, I'm very cautious about launching new projects. because
Right.
I've worked in marketing, because I've worked with some of these tech startups, that I've learned you never want to dive headlong into something. You want to put out like a prototype and see how people react first before you even decide to go on and get crazy. So Vengeance Nevada, the it had existed for a while as just something I was putting out on the web. So we put it out, people liked it. I said, okay, let's try putting it out on Comixology and see what happened. Like there was no plan. It was let's put it on Comixology, let's see how people react to it. If they like it, we'll do more. And so the response has been good. But going into the initial release, there wasn't like this broad, all right, we're going to do this and then we'll move into print. And it was just very much from the tech world of we're going to put out a minimum viable product, an MVP. We're going to see what people like and don't like. We'll make tweaks and then we'll launch it again. So that was sort of the plan there. I am pitching a graphic novel right now to agents that, if it gets picked up by a publisher, would be in print. And so that's sort of the next step to all this. But I try to be really cautious. So there was no like, I want to get into this and get into this. And the other thing is that, hang on one second, I'm going to free the cat. Go ahead. Sorry. I've got like 5 cats. And so I've had the one of them wanted out. So anyway, the thing with print versus digital is that you always want to be in print too.
Right.
Like I think people don't understand, and it's in their to their credit, because they haven't done the research for this stuff, that like Twitter and what you see online only makes up a really tiny percent of the actual comic buying audience, or the actual comics news media. Like even the voices that are, for better or worse, people that are represented online, it's not necessarily the majority of people that you encounter. Most comics are still purchased in print. It's still a multi-billion-dollar industry, and most of that money is from offline purchases. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but I think it's a long way of saying if you're an indie creator, you do eventually want to move to print for that reason. Like you shouldn't start out just going digital. You should have a plan to go into print if everything works. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No. Yeah, that's an awesome answer. I find for myself, I've purchased a couple of graphic novels through Comixology, just through Amazon, just because they were like dirt cheap, and I was like, well, I'll buy this. But I'm also the type of person, like I've always been like this. Again, back to supporting like my local community, somebody, like buying Watershed, like. And I guess is a bad example because I bought Moon Knight like graphic novels, the Jeff Lemire stuff. But cool. I love Lemire's writing so much. Like I bought that whole run on single issue when I found it, just because I was like, I've already read this, but I just want to own it. And I don't have the time to open it up again because I have 15 comic pulls. But like same thing with like local artists that are producing comics. I've been. We're actually going to be working with Short Fuse Media Group. They're going to be sponsoring a independent minute that we're going to start doing. We'll probably do a review of Vengeance Nevada.
Cool.
And so during that, we're just kind of going to go dive into like 2 or 3 independent comics we're reading. And but yeah, I just love to support like creators, artists, breweries, anybody who's like out there really grinding for what they want to do. Like I'm all about like doing my fair share to like try to support their art, because I just think it's great, and especially with the comic books, man, it's just really enjoyable. And like I said earlier, getting away from the company characters, I didn't think that'd be anything I would ever want to do. But as I've read another book that Lemire's doing right now, Gideon Falls with Image, is just, it's incredible. Are you reading it? Or?
I love his work. And I'm the same way too. Like I found his Moon Knight stuff through Comixology, and I liked it so much, I went and I picked up the issues. And I found that I do that a lot, where even if I buy something digitally, if I like the artist or I like the writer, I will always buy the print run, or at the very least the trade, to support them. And I'm also the same way, like, so I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and I support the independent wrestlers by, like, if they have a new shirt, even if I never wear the shirt, I will buy it.
Oh, dude, that goes a long way to helping somebody. I was laughing because of the professional wrestling. We just sat down with another local. They're more focused just on like the brewery type scene and the beer scene. They're called the Beer Mongers, and they do a live radio session. They're super great people. The one guy owns a bar here in Delaware called Barley Hopsters. Next time you're in Central Ohio, man, come up to Delaware. It's a lot of fun stuff up here. Really small community, but like an old historic downtown. A lot of really cool bars, great restaurants, a couple of breweries. But
Love it.
we were at Action Comics 1000 last night. We had recorded an episode during like an Action midnight release of Action Comics 1000.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we had so much fun, and they were there, and they're like big pro wrestling fans and not very big comic book fans.
Right.
But, I had made the analogy like with pro wrestling or video games, and this is going to be a little bit vulgar, but I always said like those two things they're like porn. Like if you cut them out of your life, you're fine. You never, the second you watch porn, you can't keep your dick out of your hand. It's like, if I turn on pro wrestling, dude, I'm like a fan. Like immediately, I'm just like sucked in. I caught Monday Night Raw leading up to WrestleMania, and like Ronda Rousey was on there, and it was like all the mic time, and I was like, I'm sitting out. We went out with some friends from North Carolina who are up here. We hadn't seen them in forever, and I'm just like, shh, hold on, shh. Like I haven't watched wrestling in years, but I'm just like sucked in instantly. If I'd play a video game tomorrow, I'd be buying a system and like calling off work.
Yep.
Like
I'm the same way. That's for that reason I don't play video games anymore, because I was like, something has to go. In order for me to do everything I need to do, and it was games. But yeah, no, wrestling to me, it's just a live action comic book.
It's fun. I was just like the beer mongers. I'm sorry to go on and on about this, but we decided to challenge them to a drinking death match.
Okay.
And we have a post going on social media right now that is probably about 40 gifs deep, and it's just all pro wrestling like that. Yeah, so we're going to do our show and have them on our show, and then we're going to do their show and we'll be on theirs, and we're just going to do a drinking challenge the whole time.
Nice.
And my wife's like, that sounds pathetic, and I'm like, pathetically awesome. Like
it sounds fun. You got to have fun.
I'm almost 40, and I'm almost willing to cripple myself for a hangover just because I think it's going to be so fun and funny. But yeah, the pro wrestling gifts that we've been sharing on there just have me like in tears, man. The Undertaker has some great gifts out there.
Yeah, he does. He's very good.
Yeah, he's the best. So who's your favorite wrestler?
Well, it was CM Punk, but he is now stupidly on this UFC kick.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. For anyone that watches MMA, you know what I'm talking about. So it was him. These days, I'm really into women's wrestling.
Okay.
So I found I'm almost ignoring the guys, because to me, I've seen it all before.
Right.
Or at least with the women's division, I was growing up. I was a WCW fan. I loved the cruiserweights, and modern women's wrestling is basically the cruiserweight division.
Right.
Come back to life. And so that's really what draws me in. So Ronda Rousey is awesome. I'm a big Bayley fan. Bayley on WWE, she's the hugger.
Yeah.
One that hugs everybody. And I would say she's my favorite on the main stage. And then on the independent scene, there's a wrestler in Impact called Diamante, who's like, she's like this badass. Like she looks like she came out of a comic book being this badass bounty hunter. And so I was like, when I first saw her, I went, that's fucking awesome. Like I didn't know anything about her. I just saw her come out with like the bandana over her face, and I was like, I can write that character. Like I can write that character all day, every day. And I found with wrestling, that's what I gravitate to.
Yeah.
Because if I can write the character, I'm attracted to it, and I follow that wrestler. So that's typically like what'll pull me in, and those are the people I gravitate to.
I see. I go old school because again, I'm not like following wrestling. I love that Ronda Rousey went over there. That's just like, I was saying this last night on the podcast. Like, Rowdy Ronda Rousey is like the most brilliant marketing strategy.
It is.
Ever. I mean, it is like it's like someone just put that on a silver platter and was like, we're gonna dress you up like Hot Rod, and like people are going to go nuts, and they are, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. Like I said, it's absolutely brilliant. So like I'm stoked about that. But see, I still go old school. Like I hated Ric Flair, and I was like a big Sting fan when he has Beach Splash Stinger. Yeah. But then as I got a little older, I was like, man, I love Ric Flair. Like, I love that dude. And I loved, like, I got back into it a little bit when it was the New World Order. Right. And Ric Flair was, like, you know, going up against him. Like, I loved that, man. I remember they had a special in Columbus, and, like, Hogan and Macho Man came rolling in a limo, and, like, Flair came running at the limo with a tire iron and smashed out the window. And man, I went crazy, dude. I went crazy. I was like, I love Flair, man. He's the best.
I mean, WCW, people don't realize this today because at this point, and who knows if the numbers are right, but let's say they are, there's about 4 million identified pro wrestling fans in the United States as of like 2017. Back when WCW, NWO was at like the height, you know, they were drawing 16, 17 million people every Monday night, if not more, because Nielsen's ratings are always a little sketchy.
Right.
So, I mean, wrestling was huge in the 90s, where it was more popular than probably most TV shows like The Walking Dead are today.
Right.
So, I mean, it's fallen off a bit. But yeah, back at that time, it was almost like the hottest thing on the planet.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. It was great. Well, I mean, you got Hulk Hogan going evil, you know. Right. I mean, that's just like right there, you know, going to like draw people in, no doubt, you know, no doubt. Like that was a huge thing, and yeah, pro wrestling, like I said, man, it's infectious. You start watching it and you can't stop. It's like, and I went to an event. I went to a WWE SmackDown. It was in Columbus. And one of the guys I do the podcast with, one of the glassy-eyed geeks, Marcus Stevenson, he worked for, he's like been involved in the video game community for a long time, and he's worked like closely with like wrestling video games, and so he has like a bunch of ends, so he got us like tickets, and man, those events are fun live.
Yeah.
Like, they're so fun live because it's just like non-stop heckling and you just get into it. Like even my wife, who like would roll her eyes to even know that I've talked this much about wrestling in the past 2 days, it would, let alone if I talked this much about it in 2 years, she would still be disappointed, you know. But like she was into it. Like it's so much fun live. And
you can't, it's funny because college hockey used to be like the last place you can go to really heckle someone,
right,
and have a good time. And even they cracked down in recent years where it's like, oh, it's a family thing and you got to really behave yourself. So pro wrestling has become like the actual last place you can go and actually heckle the performers and not get thrown out.
Right,
because it's part of the show. Like they encourage it. So to me, especially on the indies, it's very cool because you're in a small like gym, or you're in a small VFW, or you're in a small arena.
Right.
So you are right on top of the ring, and they come in and out of the audience. And so there's so much more interaction when you're heckling them, or hopefully not heckling them because they will kick your ass if you said the wrong thing. Like you don't really get that in a lot of places in our culture where you can just go and have fun and shout silly things and not be like, oh crap, I'm not being a responsible adult right now. That's why I love it. Like that's me. It's always been the attraction.
Yeah, it's super fun. I've kind of lost track where we're talking comics and WWE now, but you know, we're just having a good time, having a fun interview. I guess jumping into your new book, Privacy. Well, I mean, were you? I haven't had an opportunity to read it yet, so I haven't got onto it. I really want to, and especially since you're talking about your reference in Columbus, Ohio, like that's awesome. So I definitely plan on picking it up and reading it, but are you feeling any kind of vindication seeing a lot of people are calling him Lex Luthor, seeing Zuckerberg's like, you know, brought up in front of Congress? Like, are you just finding it laughable, or
it's more? Oh man, yeah. So I'm been getting this question a lot.
I imagine, and again, this isn't a political podcast in any way. I just figured we'd touch on it because it's like your new book and
It's very like it's on one hand, there's a lot of eye rolling
right,
because I started writing the privacy book. Like in the first chapter, it says I started writing this in 2015. Like this
right,
is a series of essays from 2015 to 2017. And so when I see this stuff in the news now, I'm like, I, come on, I've been talking about this. Like in social media, especially, I've been talking about this. So to me, it's like this is no surprise. But then on the other hand, it's disappointing that it's still continuing. And
yeah,
when you have, regardless of political party, when you have senators who clearly don't understand Facebook and don't really use the platform, and they're asking Zuckerberg like these weird questions that really don't have a good answer to them because they make no sense. Nothing gets done, and so that frustrates me a little bit. So I'm glad I wrote it. It turned out to be more timely than I ever thought it would be because I think all this broke a few months after the book came out. Uh, but yeah, it's one of those weird subjects where people when they read about it, they get engaged about it, and they really care, and I like that. But it's a hard sell, man. Like I'll give you a great example in promoting Vengeance Nevada versus promoting the privacy book because I've been
right,
doing both at the same time. Vengeance Nevada has gotten way more attention and coverage than the privacy book. So,
okay,
which one is more important in terms of society? Probably the privacy book, although Vengeance Nevada is the thing I prefer and I love the most.
right,
So that just sort of shows you the world that we're in, where if people are out there talking about this privacy stuff and they can't get coverage for it, this stuff just keeps continuing. So you have
right.
Facebook going to DC and saying, "Oh, we're very sorry, we'll try harder," even though Facebook has said, "We're very sorry and we'll try harder" since like 2009. Like
Right.
they've said it over and over and over again, and nothing has changed.
See, I'm guilty. I'm one of the people that you're just kind of referencing where I found myself in a position where I was like, I read comics to unplug. Maybe not doing my civic duty to the fullest extent, but like I just can't sit and watch the news. I can't get tied into this stuff because it feels like there's no change coming. So like for the best
Right.
for me is like, I focus on my community, I focus on my neighborhood, my kids, my family, reading comics. Like that's where I try to focus my energy because if you get tied up in the media cycle, I find you get to a point of like it's like anxiety
It
inducing,
is. And
and
honestly, like it shouldn't be on you to fix it. So that's the other thing. Like there's nothing wrong with what you've described is how most people, like I'd say about 90% of people are, where they're concerned about their neighborhood, their kids, their family, the things that are local to them. It shouldn't be on you to be vigilant about this stuff. It should be on the companies to not be jerks,
right.
basically. And that's the argument of the privacy book, because when I talk about this, so I have two mentally disabled brothers, and I have a large family that requires some active participation on my part, to just make sure the plates keep spinning. And so no one in this family has time to stop and worry about Facebook having the world's largest database of faces. Like no,
Right.
we're busy making sure everyone's okay, and getting on with what they need to do. So what the privacy book lays out is it says all we need to really do is pass a law and say, or have them regulate themselves for people who don't like government intervention, saying that the onus is on the company and not on you. Don't be evil. If I
Right.
have your data and I have all of the like if I have the ability to scan you for your emotions and show you advertising based on what emotion we think you're having right now, which is what Facebook does with their facial data set, I shouldn't do that because that's being
Right.
evil. And if I do that, there should be consequences. So, like, that's the thing that bothers me is that people feel like it's on them, and I keep saying it's not. Don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong. This is an easy thing to fix, and it's on them to fix it. It's not on us. It's on them.
Right. Yeah, I think I have a coworker, a colleague, and we were talking, and he was talking about how creeped out he was about
Right.
this. He was talking to a coworker about getting his yard aerated, He pulls up his phone, he logs on to Facebook, boom, first thing he sees is yard aeration
Yep.
from an ad. Well, I don't know if he was not logged out completely, but his phone is in his back pocket and picking up what he's talking about and then marketing towards that. That is disturbing. That's disturbing.
This is like the story that won't die. And the reason why it won't die is because Facebook can do it, and they're very unclear. They're emphatic in saying that they don't listen. So, and their response is, your phone knows so much about you that either something else is listening, or you might have done some searching. Like there's a million different possible answers. But I'm convinced that I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but
I'm with you.
I'm convinced that they do listen because they can. They have the technology. It's been known that when you open up Facebook and you're about to update your status, that they do access the microphone. So for me, it's not a big leap to say, all right, well, they're probably eavesdropping when you're just walking around because they're already tracking your location. They already know what your location is. They probably know what your mood is from any number of things. They buy a lot of data on you. I think people don't realize that, where Facebook has like these shadow profiles that they build of everyone that's on the network. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I'm not saying they do or don't. It wouldn't surprise me in the least, though, if they do have the capacity to listen in on the conversations and serve out the ads. I know they have the technology to do it. They will tell you they have the technology to do it, but publicly they're emphatic that they don't listen in. They probably do, though. So,
I've seen this meme going around where it's talking about like the, much like Siri is talking about like Alexis with Amazon. It's talking about like our parents were so fearful of being spied on by the government, but our generation is inviting in the technology to allow that.
Yes.
For ease. And again, that's something that my GPS is turned on my phone, my Bluetooth is turned on my phone, because when I use my phone to search for a pizza shop, I don't want to have to go to their website, locate my address, and find out. I want them to pull up and be like, hey, this one's next to you, do you want that? And I do. Like, so for convenience,
that's okay though. See, so where there's nothing wrong, like the example I give in the book is if you use Netflix all the time, there's nothing wrong with them using the data to find stuff that you might like to watch.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with Domino's saving your address information and your pizza of choice to allow for one-click ordering. That's not a problem. That's not what I talk about in the book. What I talk about is like if Domino's sells that data to someone else.
Right.
That's where it starts to get sketchy. Or if Domino's uses the data for other things. So like MoviePass is a good example, where MoviePass advertised itself and said, for $9.99 or whatever it is, you can see whatever movie you want. Like that was the whole sales proposition. But what they didn't tell people until the CEO said something was they're a data company. But their whole business model was actually collecting data of what movies you're seeing, where you're going, what you're doing, what apps you have on your phone, and then selling that to the highest bidder. That's where there's a problem. So there's that convenience thing, but there's also like that creepy thing.
Yeah, don't be a jerk. Like
right, don't be a jerk. Like that's all I'm asking in that book. And it's not like a crazy ask. It's just if you are a pizza company, just give me the pizza.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing selling my data to like some advertising agency or data broker? Like just save the information. Right. Give me my pizza. What's the problem? So it's a tough thing because I think that to a certain extent there's so many sensors and cameras now, even here in upstate New York where you wouldn't expect for us to be technologically advanced. We have all sorts of sensors and detectors that are out there now. So even if you don't have a phone, let's say, like there's all this stuff that's now collecting this information on you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that people realize that and they sort of go, okay, but I don't want to have to worry about that. So here's what I want and give me this and we'll be fine. And we're just not asking for that yet. So the point of the book was to get people to say, hey, I would like it if you were not creepy.
Yeah. I think everybody could get behind that. That's a simple message, and I'm really looking forward to picking it up. We're approaching the hour mark. I think we're going to have to cash out here pretty soon, but we do have a couple of questions I always like to ask guests. One is, it's kind of pipe dream. We eventually want to put together a Heroes by the Pint comic. Would you want to be a character in it, and would you want to be a villain or a hero?
Definitely a villain. I do make an appearance in Vengeance Nevada in an upcoming issue where I'm playing an actor who has like the sock puppet on his hand, and he's having a breakdown because the carrots weren't given to him in smallest to largest. And he's just freaking out. So yeah, any chance I can to put my face in a comic or on TV, I am all for it.
Okay, so this comic is mostly going to center around the podcast and us going out and trying to be vigilantes after we're drunk from recording the podcast, and ultimately like saving people who don't need saved.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's something that we're like kind of in the works with. Every brewery that we interview, we ask them if they want to be on it, and we always get like a really great response. It's something that initially when I was thinking, I was like, all right, we're gonna do this, and we'll be the Green Arrow and the Punisher and I was like, well, the more I've thought about that, I'm like, well, we can't be those people. Like, we have to like come up with something. So the best one we come up with so far, instead of the Punisher, is going to be the Pint Finisher. Okay. And he's just going to be someone who finishes your beer for you.
Nice.
And continuing to work. But a couple of the quick questions. If you had one comic book, villain, hero, anybody, I guess for one, who's your favorite? If you could have a drink with one, who would it be at a bar? And if you could sucker punch one, who would it be?
Can all of those answers be Neymar?
Yeah.
That's what I think I would go with. Yeah, for all of them, it's definitely Neymar.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Yeah, man, I've really enjoyed Vengeance Nevada. Good luck on pitching the new graphic novel. I did check out a little bit of that online. I like that Social Media is Bullshit made an appearance, as well as George Carl. Like, I was like, dude, this is great. There are some other great lines in Social Media is Bullshit I wanted to bring up, but we'll have to sit down together again sometime if you'd be into that. But I really loved that during the gold rush, it's not the people finding gold that's getting rich, it's the people selling shovels. Like, I was just like, man, that is so true. Like,
it's true today too. Just replace social media with the words blockchain and cryptocurrency, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I absolutely believe it. But man, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to getting this episode out, and we've had a lot of fun. Everybody who's listening, go out and purchase Comixology, Vengeance Nevada. You can also check out BJ Mendelson.
Yep.
Mendelson.
BJMendelson.com.
You can also check out.
Other thing.
Yes, let's hear it.
So, okay, anyone who's listening, if they text me the word sheetrock, it's spelled exactly as it sounds, and this is my actual number, and because we're on camera, I could show you this. This is my actual phone. If you text me at 646-331-8341, 646-331-8341 with the word sheetrock, I will send you a free PDF copy of Social Media is Bullshit.
Oh, man, that is awesome. Everyone get out there, check out Privacy and How We Get It Back. I'm really looking forward to picking it up. It seems like a super intriguing read. Social Media is Bullshit, again, was awesome. I couldn't put it down. I was really enjoying that, and looking forward to some more Vengeance Nevada and that sock puppet.
Yeah, it's coming soon. August 22nd will be the second issue of Vengeance Nevada, so it's coming.
Outstanding. Well, I will tell you this. Run a Kickstarter, because I'll support.
All right, I might need to do that.
Run a Kickstarter to get this in print, because there's nothing like, I think Stan Lee had the greatest quote ever when he talked about digital comics. He said, I like looking at boobs online, but I would rather hold them in my hands. And I was like, well, comics are never going to go away. I was like, that's brilliant. But once again, man, I just want to thank you so much for your time. This is the Heroes by the Pint podcast, and we are out.